So, just a couple days ago here, um, the YouTube channel Anonymous Official. Okay, so the group Anonymous, they put out a lot of good videos every day, exposing corruption, and I believe that everything they put out they're pretty credible. I think, and I don't think that they put out anything that they know to be false or that they haven't looked into. That being said, a couple days ago, Anonymous Official just put this video out. Okay, this is everything we've been talking about for 3 years. For the most part, in the TI community, all these targeted individuals people think are crazy. It's just increasing. They're doing it more and more. So to the point where credible people are speaking out about this. It's becoming regular information known by the general public and by everybody. So I just thought it was important because a lot of this stuff started on this day, 20 years ago. So, or I'm sorry, 22 years ago, my bad. September 11th, 2020, 2001, 22 years ago. And here it is. It's 9/11. It's been 22 years and they've just been, getting worse and worse and grabbing more and more power. And it's not going to get any better until we all share this information, wake up, share this information with your neighbors, your friends, your loved ones, your family, everybody you know. Don't worry about looking crazy because it's the people that are saying that this could never happen. The people that are saying that we're crazy, right? The conspiracy theorists are all nuts, right? Those are the people that are now looking crazy. I promise. If you're one of those people, you're going to be the one that looks crazy if you don't believe this shit's going on. Okay, that's my take on it. But with that being said, I'm gonna let this video play, and then it's gonna be followed up by some other information that I feel is very good information. I don't know if it's all true or not. You be the judge. You take the information for what it's worth. Do your own research. You be the judge. But don't limit yourself to what information you take in because you just assume something's a lie or you assume something's fake. Allow yourself to take in all the information. That's the only way you can see the big picture. Okay, so like I said, I don't know if this is true or not. I didn't make the video. I didn't, That's why I'm putting the information out there so that everybody can make their own decisions. You decide if it's true or not. You take the information with a grain of salt, take it for what it's worth. Do with it whatever you feel you need to do with the information. If you feel strongly that the information is true and relevant, please share it, please. And if you feel like it's a lie or it's fake or it's false, and you decide to voice that opinion, please include some evidence as to that fact of why it's a lie. Some evidence that to go along with what you're saying. If you're saying it's all bullshit and it's a lie, you gotta provide something, to back that up. If not, then you're not helping anything. And just say less until you know more. But with that being said, this goes out to all the innocent, brave men and women that have lost their life over the years in the struggle and the fight for freedom, liberty, and for the ability for us to be able to come on here and do this right now and say this. And, the right to be free from persecution and the freedom to speak, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of church, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Those are all the things included in the First Amendment of the Constitution, and they're all, there's a reason they're all the number one, the First Amendment of the Constitution, because they're all equally the most important things in America. And it's important that we take a minute to remember, how many people gave their lives and what sacrifices people have made in order for us to have those rights. So it's important we stop and we exercise and we flex those rights, or we're gonna lose them. You can see it. It's happening right in front of your eyes. We're gonna lose them if we don't exercise them. If we don't use those rights, you got to stand on your rights. That's why they were given to us. That's why they were fought for, and people died, to give us these rights. Not just so we can just squander them and just fucking take them for granted. No. It's important that we learn them, we understand them, and we understand why they made sure that we have these important rights, and why America continues to be, the American idea, and the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution continues to be the thing that every nation strives for, and why everybody looks to America to lead the way, because we're still standing, and we're still standing with all those constitutional rights at the base. You know what I mean? So if you don't know your rights, you don't know the Constitution, and you don't know very intimately about all this, please do yourself a favor and educate yourself on it. Learn your rights, because we are the only thing that's coming to save the day. So it's important that you equip yourself with the tools needed to fight the upcoming inevitable battles that we're gonna need. Every soldier to be equipped with the knowledge of your rights. Knowledge is power, and that's something they can never take from you. It's more powerful than any other weapon that you can imagine. The truth and knowledge. So.
And the birth of Homeland Security, fusion centers were set up to monitor U.S. citizens, and the U.S. Department of Justice legalized non-consensual experiments on the public. These fusion centers employ civilians to target individuals and harass them, intimidate them, vandalize their property, and interfere with their day-to-day life. This is known as gangstalking. Former high-ranking FBI agent Ted Gunderson reported in 2011 that himself and thousands of others were being targeted. FBI agent Mike German confirmed this as well. Several federal agents have reported that they were targeting individual Americans, including people who were simply pro-life, and that they were pressured to put more people on their targeting lists to legitimize more federal funding. These Homeland Security fusion centers are able to put any American citizen on the watch list without any reason or due process. In 2012, NSA whistleblower William Binney reported that the feds are conducting comprehensive surveillance on nearly every U.S. citizen and targeting whomever they please. In 2014, Glenn Greenwald exposed the methods used to target individuals, such as hacking into people's social media accounts, posing as that person, and contacting their friends and coworkers. TargetedJustice.com is currently working on suing the federal government for targeting individual U.S. citizens with different high-tech weapons, including directed energy weapons. The Havana Syndrome, when diplomats in Cuba were attacked with directed energy weapons, was not an isolated event. There are thousands of individuals who claim to be under this same sort of attack, and they have the scars to prove it. As far back as 1976, the technology to remotely alter brainwaves has existed, including voice-to-skull technology that allows the government to directly transmit voices into people's brains. As bad as all this is, it is likely to get much worse. In 2017, Dr. James Giordano gave a lecture on the latest government technologies to target individuals, such as neuroweapons to control brain function and modify memories.
I'm looking to target key individuals who may then be influential to relative aspects of their representative groups. I can affect individuals' brain functions in a variety of different ways, both positively and negatively, by engaging or disengaging nodes and networks of the brain that therefore affect their cognitions, emotions, and ultimately their behaviors. Something my colleague Jamie Canton likes to play with an awful lot is the idea of specialized neural operations. And here, once again, we're talking about the use of either drugs and/or devices to modify the integrity of brain function that we realize can also modify individuals' perception of time and space. We talked earlier about how these may be used in interrogation scenarios, and this too may be used against key individuals to be able to modify their perception of time, their perception of what occurred and what did not, memory modification, etc.
Nanoparticulates that can give an individual a stroke.
So what we're able to do here is infiltrate the brain space with nanoparticulate matter that aggregates in situ, on site in the brain, and does one of two things: either penetrates from the vascular space, gets in through the bloodstream, gets in through the nose, through the mucosa, or infiltrates the vascular space and clogs it. What is the result? What's called a nanoparticulate stroke, or a hemorrhagic diathesis, fancy word, for it's a predisposition to individuals having brain bleeds.
He explains how they can make people sick with an undetectable illness to make them go crazy.
What I'm doing is I'm using a dispersion methodology to be able to infect sentinel cases with a highly morbid condition. These individuals complain. Again, this is a central nervous system condition. So they're complaining of whatever the bug may do. It'll produce some cascade of neurological and neuropsychiatric signs and symptoms. What I've now done is I've got every individual who is diagnostically hypochondriacal, and I've got every individual who's the worried well flooding the public health system, banging on the door. The CDC comes back and says, nonsense, that's not real. I come back and say, that's fake news.
He says they can already control insects.
I infiltrate that bug's nervous system and I control the way it moves. By controlling the way it moves, I control the way it goes. I control its wings pattern. I control where it hovers, where it flies, where it articulates. And what I can also do is I can then couple this to a very, very small scale set of either biosensors or cameras. And what I basically have here is a biodrone. I can go one step further and I can also impregnate that individual organism, with a very small scale weaponizable delivery mode. In other words, if I'm using a very, very small scale bio, such as a very potent organotoxin, or the delivery of a very small level of microbes that we know can either replicate and infect, or is genetically modified to have a very, very high morbidity effect, I can then utilize this not only as a reconnaissance drone, but also as an infiltrative weaponizable drone that can then deliver some payload.
Immediately following the death of Nikola Tesla, Dr. John Trump, an electrical engineer with the National Defense Research Committee of the Office of Scientific Research and Development, and interestingly, President Donald Trump's uncle, was called in to analyze the Tesla papers. After only 3 days, John Trump officially concluded that Tesla's work was primarily speculative and did not include workable methods. We are then told that most of Tesla's papers disappeared, but his work most definitely quietly continued. Heavily funded military projects studying the Tesla particle beam are reported, but more interesting than the history of systems in rotation: spin. Although everything down to the electron seems to be spinning, there is no official study on the science of spin or rotation. But there are fragments and clues that suggest major governments have been secretly studying the science of rotation ever since World War II, calling it hyperdimensional physics or torsion physics. Bruce De Palma's spinning ball experiment from 1977 is simple enough for anyone to repeat. 2 steel balls are repeatedly launched with equal force. One is spinning, the other is not. The spinning ball consistently flies higher and falls faster than the other. This is in direct violation of both Newton's laws and Einstein's relativity. Modern science cannot account for this energy. The top secret so-called Nazi Bell project allegedly involved 2 counter-rotating cylinders and produced anti-gravity UFO-like effects. And now the US Navy appears to be going public with this science. They claim to control inventions that change the fabric of reality. A mysterious Dr. Salvatore Cesar Paes has filed 4 patents, of which the US Navy is the assignee. They appear to be technology for what we would popularly describe as UFOs. And they are all based upon harvesting energy from the spinning of electromagnetic fields. These patents look very similar to what whistleblowers claim have been in production for years by weapon manufacturers such as Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. The same UFO-like craft that whistleblowers claim are being prepared to stage a fake alien invasion. After decades of deep misinformation, secrecy, and corruption, why bring this powerful technology out into the open today? The chief technical officer of the Naval Aviation Enterprise claims that the U.S. needs these patents because the Chinese are already investing significantly in these technologies. So are they rolling all this out into the public to prepare us for a space-age war with China? The subtext to all this, of course, is that there is no energy crisis, only more lies and deceit.
We were warned.
The CIA relies heavily on the NSA's ability to gather vast quantities of email, phone calls, and other data to track down.
The CIA's drone program relies heavily on data the NSA provides. That includes phone calls, emails, and other forms of signals intelligence.
But we didn't listen, and now we live in a dystopia.
Like, why would you just use it on potential criminals or enemies of the state or what have you? Well, you could use it on the entire fucking population and make trillions of dollars in advertiser revenue. Well, what about when you talk about something and then you get an ad for that something that you've never seen an ad for before?
With email service providers and social media, we've long been told that if it's free, you're the product. But with the Internet of Things, it seems even if you pay, you're still the product.
A real-life science fiction movie.
It really goes back to the data. So we have a direct connection with our consumers that provides us with deterministic first-party data. So we utilize that for targeting.
How did we get here? The personal computer, originally designed to raise the intellect of humanity, has been transformed into smart devices designed to raise the intellect of artificial intelligence instead.
In order to correct the AI, Google felt that they needed to re-rank all of the data.
This has massive implications for society. Companies are modifying their behavior to ingratiate themselves with those in power. They're changing their slogans and advertisements. They're censoring content. They're firing controversial people. Speak up, you might lose your job because you're bad for the company's ESG score.
Now it's all about politics and hysteria. What we thought could make us more connected made us more divided. Instead of people using technology for their benefits, technology now uses people for it.
Always watching you.
Music, movie streaming services, online shopping services routinely look at your pattern of behavior, compares that to previous customers, and tries to make predictions for you.
Google runs the largest of all the ad exchanges, also known as surveillance advertising.
Big social media platforms don't sell ads to you. They sell you to advertisers.
This technology is designed to collect as much information about you as possible, then analyze it with artificial intelligence to create predictive models of your behavior and preferences.
This is you, a series of purchases, preferences, and quantifiable data points that we define as your personality. We monitor every social network, internet logs, instant and text messages, known associates, your friends, emails received and sent, cell phone usage. We use this data to form personality profiles. We know who you are. We are everywhere.
The thing is, you're not just following your bad guy targets, you're also following their metadata. And by the time you go a third hop out from the original target, you're looking at a list of 2.5 million people.
This is a commercialized version of the very same technology that in previous versions used cell phone, email, and social media data to target with a predator drone.
The CIA's drone program relies heavily on data the NSA provides. That includes phone calls, emails, and other forms of signals intelligence.
But now, instead of delivering you a smart bomb,
Avon calling.
It delivers you a smart ad through smart devices, and that's just the beginning.
And nearly every TV sold these days is a smart TV. And if you're not using a smart TV, you might plug in one of these, an Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, or Google Chromecast. But all these devices are grabbing a lot of information about you, what shows you watch, when you're watching, and how long, even your voice. According to their terms of service, those smart devices use that information for a range of reasons, including analytics, marketing, and targeted advertising. They can share that data with countless third-party firms.
Your privacy and behavioral data is monetized and sold to governments, corporations, and advertising agencies.
This is a very dangerous weapon to put at the hands of the powers that be.
We've really been building back-end big data analytic capabilities now for a couple of years.
We get the data through 30,000 sources.
It's not just the typical data that you find in a database, but other data that you can get about your customers.
Major financial institutions and companies give us accounts receivable information.
We know a lot about our customers. We can see their lifetime value. We know who our most valuable customer is.
We also get signal data and other kinds of data like B2B e-commerce data and shipping data and social media data.
Facebook has invested $2 billion in a data center.
$1.3 billion data center complex for Apple.
Google is now saying it's going to spend $13 billion money for data centers.
And that's where a lot of these data lakes come in.
Data is a huge asset for us.
From your own data sources and from outside third-party data sources. You can bring that together and get business value out of that.
And we combine this unstructured data that I just talked about with that accounts receivable data, and suddenly we've got a rich profile.
So you want to do data crunching? Right. Basically,
Reinforcement learning, or RL, is one of the three main subfields in machine learning. The other
Amazon is the world's biggest supercomputer available right now. Right. And that you're able to use that data. You turn on the data sources you need. Within a couple of hours, you have the analysis you need.
Amazon's private brands team in India secretly exploited internal data to copy products sold by other companies, knocking off the products of sellers in its marketplace.
Using that big data against our best customers, it's a huge asset.
And rigging search results. An exploitation of its vast trove of data to promote its own merchandise at the expense of other sellers.
Amazon is now 50% of all e-commerce.
Amazon has been forcing third-party sellers to enter into contracts that penalize them if they try to sell their products on other sites for cheaper prices. And that includes a company's own website.
For every euro of sales, Hubacher has to hand over 30 cents to Amazon. Amazon is one of the most valuable companies in the world, along with Apple, Google, and Facebook. They're worth together around $7 trillion. The success of software can depend on its presence in the App Store, for which Apple charges 15 to 30% of revenue.
And essentially tells us if you don't like the deal, you can just get out of here. You can just shut down your business. How is that a choice? It just felt like mafia tactics.
The tech companies decide under what conditions others can enter their system. In the process, they collect oceans of data.
They invade our private lives through surveillance. They extract from our lives, rendering what they extract as behavioral data, and then they claim those behavioral data as their private property.
The way you live your life, the way you do your work, the way research and development are all moving forward. It all relies on this enormous amount of data and this enormous amount of computing power.
Guess who else has access to your privacy and behavioral data?
So one of the things that we were able to do with the Smart TV platform was actually abuse the browser to the extent that we could actually gain access to the camera that's built into the TV. This is something that we can do invisibly and actually have the camera running behind the web page that you're looking at. I could be sitting on a laptop in a cafe in Paris, and as long as I have a network connection, I'd be able to get into your TV and access the camera.
Hackers, spy agencies, you name it, anyone, anywhere around the world.
This data is pretty valuable, not just to device makers, but to hackers.
If you're watching your smart TV, somebody may be into your device.
The FBI recommends putting a piece of black tape over the camera eye if you can't turn off the camera.
And that you're covering those microphone holes. Also make sure you unplug it.
Okay.
I'm Santa Claus. Don't you want to be my best friend?
The horrifying sound coming from this Ring security camera installed in the child's bedroom.
Until 2 weeks ago, Danielle's home in Portland, Oregon was wired in every room with the Amazon Echo. Her family used the Alexa app to do everything from turn up the heat to turn off the lights. But that their love for the Alexa changed with one alarming phone call. That person was one of her husband's employees calling from Seattle.
He proceeded to tell us that he had received audio files, recordings from what was going on in our house.
It's nearly impossible to distinguish between consumer products and surveillance equipment.
It's really easy to forget that normal household items are spying on you.
Look at all these products. Can you see a single microphone or camera? There is an entire economy for spy footage of people. Couples being intimate, people going to the bathroom. For many people, this is much more than just perversion. This is a business.
Your privacy is being studied, monetized, and sold. Data collection has become so sophisticated that NGOs are now using AI algorithms that can accurately predict or even interfere with election outcomes.
Do you really have a file on every voter in this country?
Yeah.
Yes. And if you just pick one at random, how much would it say about an individual?
Literally, you could look and you could look into thousands of characteristics.
Thanks to advances in data analysis and digital communications, it's now becoming possible for political leaders to capture the expressions of all American minds.
So where does the house-by-house data come from? An amazing range of sources, among them supermarket and credit card transactions, and what people watch on TV. Data analysis was pioneered in the two triumphant Obama campaigns. They even boasted they knew the names of all 69 million people who voted for Obama.
We had 12 people on our data team in 2008. We had 165 in 2012. Wow. We ended up using all that data to change the way we dealt with voters.
Mitch Stewart was Obama's director of battleground states.
I had reports every single night that went all the way down to the volunteer level in every single state. And so I could see exactly how many doors were knocked, how many conversations they had, what were the results of those conversations, and then that rolled all the way up to a national report.
But the Republican side say they've now caught up on big data, especially through their psychological profiling.
So depending on what personality type you have, we can take messaging on a particular policy or issue and then tweak it.
So if these tech companies have our live-time location tracking data, as well as access to live cell phone ping geolocation tracking data, as well as all of our social media posts, and including our private conversations that we have in proximity to our smart devices, imagine what they could do with all of that data on, say, election night. They could have a common operational picture of who's already voted at early voting, who is likely to vote a certain way and who's not likely to vote another way. In fact, by midnight, they would know whose ballots need to be stuffed into which box in order to get them the election outcome they so desire.
Significantly more data has come in between 2012 through 2016 and into 2018. Political analytics has boomed as an industry over this period of time. We talked earlier about the importance of being able to model the behavior of the entire electorate.
Have you been to Antarctica?
Yes. It's more of it.
In order to understand what states are going to have close elections, where we can effectively allocate resources. We're moving to a data warehouse built on Google BigQuery so that fundamentally people can interact with all of this data for analysts and data scientists, and to provide a foundation that people can build on top of and can do new innovative work that pushes the bounds of political data forward and drives political strategy as a result.
Do you remember when Facebook was all about family and friends? Little did we know that would all turn out to be a nightmare.
In 2015, Matt Drudge made a rare and unannounced appearance on The Alex Jones Show, warning about social media and how mass internet censorship was on the horizon.
I'm not on Facebook.
I don't do the socials. I've got that little Twitter thing. Even that's kind of disgusting. You know, I've been doing the internet as long as you've been doing this radio show, Alex. I was there before Facebook. I was there before CNN.com. I was there before mostly all of them. I have a very clear perception what the internet is. There's a lot of corporate makeover of the internet that I have not adapted to. I need no traffic from Google or Bing or Yahoo or any of these others. It's always been that way. Now, if you think of that setup, how rare that is, because everybody's so hungry for referrals. This whole social media stuff is bogus. Make your own playground. The internet allows you to make your own dynamic, your own universe. Why are you gravitating towards somebody else's? Stop operating in their playground. Stop it.
We were warned not to be corralled into their platforms, that we needed to make our own digital space. But instead, we kept feeding their machine, giving it more and more of our data. We knew they could censor us, but we didn't care. We could just keep making new profiles, bouncing from platform to platform, hide behind anonymity,
and turn it into a game of whack-a-mole.
Quote, voice of God weapon has already been created. The LRAD system, which is used to cast strong signals and crowd dispersion, can also be used to send messages long distances. I'll play a video of the CEO Woody Norris describing the voice of God weapon and what it can do when it first came out. Quote, voice of God weapon has already been created. The LRAD system, which is used to cast strong signals and crowd dispersion, can also be used to send messages long distances. I'll play a video of the CEO Woody Norris describing the voice of God weapon and what it can do when it first came out.
So again, this idea of being able to put sound anywhere you want to is really starting to catch on. It also works for transmitting and communicating data. It also works 5 times better underwater. We've got the military had just deployed some of these into Iraq, where you can put fake troop movements a quarter of a mile away on a hillside. Or you can whisper in the ear of a supposed terrorist some biblical verse. I'm serious. And they have these infrared devices that can look at their countenance and see a fraction of a degree Kelvin in temperature shift from 100 yards away when they play this thing. And so another way of hopefully determining who's friendly and who isn't. We make a version of this which puts out 155 decibels. Pain is 120. So it allows you to go nearly a mile away and communicate with people, and there can be a public beach just off to the side and they don't even know it's turned on. We sell those to the military presently for about $70,000, and they're buying them as fast as we can make them.
It's important to understand what the 5G is doing and what they say it's doing. We're told on the IEEE beamforming document that this technology cooked your eyes like eggs in World War II. And you all need to understand these are military weapons. These are assault frequencies. If you garner nothing more than that, that's what you need to know. It's microwave radiation warfare, is what this is.
You're going to feel it, whether it's from satellite, whether it's from cell towers, whether it's from aircraft, whether it's from a truck, whether it's from a stationary base. You know, the main thing is that if you are in that field, then you're going to feel it. So, you know, it's the same thing as it's basically the same as a cell phone, because it doesn't make a difference where you are in the country. If I call your cell phone, it's going to ring.
Right.
Okay, well, this is the same exact thing. Once I have your bio-coded information about your biocode, I just transmit that off all the towers in the United States, and you're harassed no matter where you are.
There's a bioresonance to every individual, just like our fingerprint. Every person has an individual DNA, a different bioresonance. And so the original Stockland patent is on my website, where Stockland was able to go voice to skull with pulse transmissions in 92. And then after the rest of the development went black ops. We don't really know what happened after that. We knew we could put voices in group people's heads. what they did, and I know from the Russian translation from Cheryl Welch, from reading all her translated psychotronic stuff from Russia, that they figured out how to biocode these microwaves so that it can attack specific individuals.
Once they have your DNA, they take the DNA and they put your DNA code in a supercomputer. And in that supercomputer, they run algorithms that biocode electromagnetic transmissions so they bioresonate with your body. Once they've done that, they can transmit that from satellites or cell towers or aircraft or any number of ways. And that signal will only affect you.
Yeah, like it's the cell phone towers and everything else as well.
Well, the towers are the Matrix. You know the movie The Matrix? As an example, if I go into a city location and I'm testing an environment, I can see probably anywhere from 30 to 60 Wi-Fi access points. So that means that you're saturated in microwave. That's all 2.4 gigahertz, microwave transmissions with 60 transmission access points that are sending and receiving.
The Human Genome Project was carried out at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, where I was a staff scientist for 5 years. They were tracking people in the lab by the electromagnetic frequency emitted by individuals' DNA. The DNA in every living thing has a unique frequency and signal. That is what they're using, what they're focusing on, and what they're weaponizing to completely control us.
All they need is to kind of identify your DNA fingerprint like with your name, and then they can watch you 24 hours a day. This is one part. The other part.
So we are running a GPS system.
Yes.
The way the technology works, the voice to skull, is to tap into the resonant frequency of the DNA of the individual, the targeted individual. And this allows total mind, spirit, and body control over the individual by those who are running this program. Since I saw on a daily basis how intimately involved in this program of voice to skull social engineering and gangstalking my private security company was, I couldn't help but notice that our client, one of the largest corporations in America and indeed the world, just happened to have a massive database of DNA on its property. A DNA database that stores the DNA of millions of Americans. Their emotions, their thoughts, their minds, their heartbeat, their muscle movements, their dreams, their thoughts. Everything they see and everything they hear is all recorded and manipulated by this technology. And all of this is made possible by the people running this program, utilizing the technology to tap into the resonant frequency of the individual's DNA.
So they can broadcast this from a satellite, a tower, over many, many miles, and yet only that particular person, the targeted individual with that particular physiological signature or DNA signature, will actually pick up the sent message, correct?
That is correct. The digital receiver is the human brain. Okay, so you could be standing in a room full of 100 people. The stream of energy, the stream of electromagnetic...
It's everyone, but you're the only one who gets it. That's what I was saying, yeah.
It would pass right through and around everyone, and they would not even sense anything. But the victim would absorb the energy and feel its effects, because only the victim possesses that specific brainwave signature, which the stream of energy is tuned into.
The supercomputer begins to monitor all electromagnetic activity of the victim's brain by way of this bidirectional stream of energy. And it begins to monitor and download all that information back into its database. The system, the supercomputers are designed to clone, to download one's entire persona and psyche back into its database.
Because of my responsibilities in surveillance as a otherwise normal security specialist, I was showed this technology at work. And it was through the perspective, of course, of the camera, and what I was told that it was obvious it was being used through the eyes of the targets. So I have seen it, and it is absolutely remarkable. It's just like a first-person, video game or something where you see right through the eyes of the individual.
When we look through our eyes, there are photons hitting the outside of our face. They don't actually make it into the part that thinks. The part that thinks is looking at something else. It's looking at some kind of weird compressed signal.
Basically, those optical signals are interpreted by the brain, and then you perceive them as vision. You perceive them as pictures and so forth, but this is all electrical signals within the brain. And so the exact same thing, the data is taken in through the eyes, and then your brain renders it in a visual form that we know as sight. The exact same thing happens with the computer. The data is sent to the computer, then it is rendered in the form of a picture that people can look at.
Images, like natural images, like what I'm looking at, have so much structure that they can be shrunk and compressed into a very tiny, what AI people call representation. So what our brains seem to do is build a very, very good compressed representation of the world. Call it a model. So just like if I have a building and there's like a blueprint or a scale model of the building, imagine I have the whole world and all of its concepts, and I shrink it down into this weird compressed representation so that it fits inside my brain.
The exact same thing happens with the computer. The data is sent to the computer, then it is rendered, and from what I understand, that's where this technology is right now. The cutting edge is trying to marry, the software that's used to render it on the computer and the actual detecting of the signal and the hacking of the signal within the human mind.
So the modern view of intelligence, or call it cognition more generally, is that it's a very important thing that we create models of the world inside our heads.
They're using two interfaces, like we said, the brain-to-computer interface. That's the supercomputer. The sophisticated and advanced exascale system downloads all of your, all electromagnetic activity, all these synaptic responses, the electromagnetic emissions of the victim's brain is downloaded at the speed of light. Energy travels at the speed of light, so they can download, upload at the speed of light.
Sure.
Back into a database. As the supercomputer is programmed to build, using various software programs, a cognitive model of your brain.
And what we are trying to do is to use this precious knowledge to build machines that can actually create, manipulate, and use these parallel realities in the service of this one. We want to grab those parallel realities from this abstract space in which they live and crunch them down into this chip.
To eventually achieve direct behavioral control over you. And then based on, that cognitive model being complete, to begin to be able to predict and influence in advance the reference choices of the victim during thought composition. As the victim is formulating his thoughts and preparing to act, the supercomputer already has that persona and psyche, all your emotional state downloaded, every vector of your emotional state downloaded, so I can already predict and influence those events in your life in advance and achieve direct behavioral control over you.
And they had created a digital model of Earth and everybody in it, down to a digital GPS coordinates model up to even a vertical dimension of 1.5 centimeters, every building, every roadway, everything. And what they want to do is create an Internet of Things where in digital space they know exactly what you're doing in real time. They want to know in real time what shows you're watching, what sandwich you're eating, what part of the house you're walking around. They want to know everything.
Where they are literally just seeing what it's like for someone to eat a sandwich, what it's like, the emotional response and the brain activity when someone is insulted, when someone gets love, when someone interacts with someone, all of these different aspects of the human experience, so that my original thought was that they are using it to be able to program the technology itself.
Robots the smartest people. Artificial intelligence, AI. The idea is to port the software from the human brain.
So what you've heard about AI is not what we mean by AI. What we mean by AI is a software system that can do literally anything that a human can do. Literally anything.
In fact, the very nature of the research and development program that is going on in Seattle, Washington, and I think by extension what's being done to TIs around the country is very largely geared towards the monitoring of human beings for the specific purpose of recording every aspect of human existence, to monitor our thoughts, to monitor our emotions and our feelings, to inform computer software that is used on robots, that is used on computers themselves, to make them as human-like as possible.
And obviously, computers are better at things than people in lots of different ways. So now imagine, not only can they do everything that a human can do, but they can do everything that the best human at any task could do better than them.
In 2003, they launched what's called the AI system, which is a intelligent supercomputer with the intelligence of a human being. In other words, a smart human being, but able to think 10 trillion times faster, with the access to all known knowledge and history, and a complete access to the internet and all of the communication pathways.
If in fact the algorithms that are now believed to underpin certain aspects of cognition can be run on a quantum computer, the kinds of life or kinds of species that you'll get from that will be qualitatively better. What you might get is a sentience which is fundamentally different and better, in the sense that they'll learn things faster, they'll have deeper insights, they'll be able to predict into the future farther, they'll be able to take actions that have access to understanding that we don't. That's in a sense what I'm talking about, is that if you could build an intelligence that had a deeper ability to speculate about the outcome of its actions, you might be able to get something that was qualitatively smarter. You would say, if you wanted to, it's hard to define intelligence, but qualitatively better to predict the future more effectively than any human biological brain could do.
So you're dealing with a system of remote neural networks. That's what's targeting you, okay? Remote neural networks, okay, with a will, intellect, and emotion of their own. The system, the RM supercomputer that's targeting you, okay, that uses one of these three relay stations, the tower, satellite, or mobile platform, it actually locks on to your emotional state. Once the cognitive model, this generic model is built, it begins to lock on to your emotional state, okay? And then it begins to not just to monitor, but to manipulate that emotional state. They need to map out all 7 vectors of the emotional state of the victim in order to create this cognitive model, this reverse engineered will, intellect, and emotion. That's your human soul, by the way, okay? The human soul is the will, intellect, and emotion of the victim. They figured out what to do with the human body. The 5 senses, they can pretty much achieve whatever they want by manipulation of the human anatomy with mind control technology. Now they're going after the soul, the will, intellect, and emotion.
I could build, I think, a soul. Here's how I would do it. I copy you exactly into a digital environment. Everything about you. Imagine that was possible. It probably is. So if I copy you into a machine, that copy process has all of the properties we were talking about as being a soul. First of all, it's immaterial, because copying, that's not a thing, it's a process. It's immortal. It's just like you. You can put it in any environment you want, heaven, hell, make a simulation. So, all of these things that reside in our heads, these abstract concepts, I think that eventually we can build them, and we have to decide what we want to build.
They are building false realities into which they want to induct you so they can play God.